taller than the house? That is Deinotherium, a prehistoric elephant relative that stood about 4 meters at the shoulder. And Deinotherium is not even close to the largest animal in this video. Deinotherium carried 2 enormous tusks that curved downward and backward out of its lower jaw, which is the opposite of every elephant alive today. Deinotherium walked through Africa, Europe, and Asia for roughly 20 million years, and if a Deinotherium stepped into a suburban street tonight, it would look over the roof of a 2-story house. So here is the question everyone asks, and almost nobody answers properly. Why were prehistoric animals so much bigger than anything alive today? There is no single answer. There are 4 separate reasons. They apply to completely different animals: insects, dinosaurs, Ice Age mammals, and the last one is a twist, because the biggest animal in the entire history of life on Earth is not extinct. It is alive right now. Start with the size gap between an elephant and a dinosaur, because most people underestimate it. An African elephant is the largest land animal alive today, at roughly 3 to 4 meters at the shoulder and 6 or 7 tons. Deinotherium was taller and heavier. And Deinotherium was not the record holder either. Paraceratherium, a hornless rhinoceros relative from Oligocene Asia, stood close to 5 meters at the shoulder and weighed somewhere between 15 and 20 tons, 3 elephants. And Paraceratherium is only the record for mammals. Argentinosaurus, a long-necked sauropod dinosaur from Cretaceous Argentina, reached over 30 meters long and weighed an estimated 65 to 80 tons. Argentinosaurus was 10 times the mass of an African elephant. That is the gap this video is explaining. And Deinotherium deserves 1 more minute, because those tusks are a genuine open question. Elephant tusks are upper incisors growing forward out of the skull. Deinotherium tusks grew out of the lower jaw and curved down and backward, pointing toward the animal's own chest. Nobody is certain what Deinotherium did with them. One idea is that Deinotherium hooked them over branches and pulled downward to strip bark and foliage. Another is that Deinotherium used the tusks to dig into soft ground for roots. A third is that the tusks were mostly display, the way antlers are, and the wear patterns on Deinotherium tusks have been read to support more than one of these. What is not in question is the size. Deinotherium survived for around 20 million years across 3 continents with that arrangement, which means whatever the tusks were for, they worked. Reason 1 is the air itself, and this one only applies to bugs. 300 million years ago, in the Carboniferous coal forests, oxygen made up roughly 35% of the atmosphere instead of the 21% you are breathing. Insects, spiders, and millipedes have no lungs. Oxygen soaks into an arthropod passively through tubes in the body wall, and that passive system has a hard size limit. More oxygen in the Carboniferous air pushed that arthropod size limit upward. So the Carboniferous produced Arthropleura, a millipede the length of a car, and dragonfly relatives with wingspans as wide as a human shoulder span. When Carboniferous oxygen levels fell, the size limit fell with them, and giant arthropods have never returned. That is reason 1, and it explains the bugs and nothing else. Reason 2 is the sauropod. And the sauropod deserves its own explanation because Argentinosaurus and Brachiosaurus solved a problem no mammal has ever solved. A land animal is fighting its own skeleton. Double an animal's length, and its weight goes up roughly 8-fold, while its bone cross-section only goes up 4-fold. Every land animal, from an elephant to Argentinosaurus, hits that wall of bone and body weight. Sauropod dinosaurs got around it with 3 specific pieces of biology. The first sauropod advantage is the skeleton. Sauropod vertebrae were not solid bone. Sauropod vertebrae were hollowed out by air sacs running through them, the same system birds have today, which made the neck and spine of Argentinosaurus dramatically lighter without making it weaker. A sauropod was carrying a partly air-filled frame. The second sauropod advantage is the head, and it comes from what a sauropod did not do. Sauropods did not chew. A brachiosaurus stripped vegetation and swallowed it whole, letting an enormous gut do the digestion over days. No chewing means no heavy grinding teeth and no massive jaw muscles, so the sauropod skull stayed small and light. A small, light skull is the only thing that makes a 15-meter neck physically possible. An elephant cannot do this because an elephant chews, and an elephant's skull weighs hundreds of kilograms. The sauropod neck creates a second problem that is even harder, and it is a plumbing problem. If Brachiosaurus raised its head to the top of its reach, the sauropod heart had to push blood upward the height of a 4-story building. Blood pressure that high would be extraordinary, well beyond anything measured in a living animal, and it would demand a heart of enormous mass just to generate it. Paleontologists studying sauropod fossils have proposed several answers. Some argue the sauropod heart really was that large. Others argue that sauropods like Brachiosaurus and Argentinosaurus held the neck closer to horizontal most of the time, and used it to sweep a wide feeding area at ground level rather than to reach treetops. That argument is still running, and the sauropod neck is one of the few places where the physics is understood better than the animal. The third sauropod advantage is the egg. Argentinosaurus laid eggs roughly the size of a football, dozens at a time. A mammal has to carry its young inside the body, and that pregnancy sets a ceiling on how large a mammal can get and how fast a mammal can reproduce. A sauropod had no such limit. Argentinosaurus could weigh 80 tons and still lay an egg you can hold in 2 hands, and a single sauropod nest could hold a whole generation. Paraceratherium is worth pausing on too, because Paraceratherium is the answer to what a mammal can do at maximum. Paraceratherium had no horn and a long neck for a rhinoceros relative, and Paraceratherium browsed the tops of trees across Mongolia, China, and Pakistan around 30 million years ago. The Paraceratherium skull alone runs well over a meter long. And Paraceratherium is the ceiling. No land mammal before or since has reliably beaten it. That is the number to remember. The very best a land mammal has ever managed is roughly 20 tons, and Argentinosaurus was 4 times that. Reason 3 is cold, and this one produced the Ice Age giants. There is a rule in biology called Bergmann's rule. Within a related group of animals, the ones living in colder climates tend to be larger. The reason is geometry. A woolly mammoth has less surface area relative to its volume than a small deer, and body heat escapes through surface. So a big body holds heat better in a cold climate. That is why Ice Age Europe, Asia, and North America produced woolly mammoths, giant deer, cave bears, and steppe bison, animals consistently larger than their modern relatives. Ice Age gigantism is not mysterious. Ice Age gigantism is a heating bill. Reason 4 is the one people forget, and it is simply time. Non-avian dinosaurs existed for about 165 million years. Large mammals have had roughly 66 million years since the asteroid, and for a good part of that stretch, mammals were still small. Evolution explored dinosaur body size the way evolution explores everything else, slowly, by accident, across enormous spans of geological time. Dinosaurs had 2.5 times longer to find the biggest possible body. Sauropods were not smarter than mammals at being big. Sauropods had a longer run at the problem. So if those four reasons built Argentinosaurus and the woolly mammoth, the obvious follow-up is why those giants are not here now. And the honest answer is that the size limits on these animals did not tighten everywhere at once. Carboniferous oxygen dropped, and the giant arthropods went with it. The asteroid removed the sauropods, and the whole architecture that made them possible went with them, because no mammal has hollow air-filled vertebrae or lays eggs. And the Ice Age giants, the woolly mammoth, the giant deer, the cave bear, died at the end of the Pleistocene, in a window that lines up both with a warming climate and with the spread of human hunters across every continent those animals lived on. Paleontologists still argue about how the blame divides between climate and humans, but the pattern is not subtle. On continent after continent, the largest mammals disappear shortly after people arrive. So for reasons: oxygen for the arthropods, hollow bones and unchewed food and eggs for the sauropods, cold for the Ice Age mammals, and time for all of them. Now, here is the twist. The largest animal in the entire history of life on Earth is not Argentinosaurus. The largest animal ever is not any dinosaur. The largest animal that has ever existed is the blue whale, and the blue whale is alive right now in the Pacific and the Atlantic and the Southern Ocean while you are watching this. A blue whale reaches 30 meters and can exceed 150 tons. The heaviest credible estimates for Argentinosaurus top out somewhere around 80 tons. The blue whale is roughly twice the mass of the largest dinosaur that ever lived. So the premise about prehistoric animals is partly wrong, and that is the interesting part. Prehistoric animals were not universally larger. Prehistoric animals were larger on land. In the ocean, the record belongs to the present. And the reason the blue whale can do it is water. Every problem that limits a land animal's size is a problem about weight: the skeleton, the legs, the joints, the heart pushing blood upward against gravity. Seawater removes that entire category of problem for the whale. A blue whale is neutrally buoyant, so a blue whale never carries its own weight. A blue whale has no legs to crush, no ankles to fail, no vertebrae compressing under load. Argentinosaurus had to build a skeleton like a bridge just to stand up. The blue whale does not have to stand up at all. There is a second half to the blue whale answer. Being enormous only works if the food supply can sustain it, and the modern ocean has something no prehistoric land ecosystem ever had: krill. Cold, nutrient-rich seas produce swarms of krill so dense that a blue whale can take in several tons of food in a day by opening its mouth and filtering. Krill is an energy supply no giant land herbivore like Argentinosaurus ever had access to. Argentinosaurus had to spend nearly every waking hour eating plants. The blue whale eats in enormous, efficient gulps. And the numbers on a blue whale are difficult to hold in your head, even when you know them. A blue whale heart weighs somewhere around 180 kilograms, the mass of a very large motorcycle. A blue whale tongue can weigh as much as an African elephant. A blue whale calf is born at roughly 7 meters and 2.5 tons, which means a newborn blue whale is already larger than most adult land animals alive today, and it gains something on the order of 90 kilograms a day drinking its mother's milk. Argentinosaurus hatched from an egg the size of a football. A blue whale is born the size of a bus. So put the whole answer together. Arthropods got huge when the Carboniferous air allowed it and shrank when the oxygen stopped. Sauropods got huge because hollow bones, unchewed food, and eggs removed the limits that trap mammals. Ice Age mammals got huge because a large body holds heat. and all of them had far more time than mammals have had. But the true maximum, the largest body life has ever built, needed something none of them had: water to carry the weight and krill to fuel it. And that record is being held right now in an ocean you could fly over this week. The land is the part that really ended. Deinotherium and its downward tusks are gone. Paraceratherium is gone. Argentinosaurus is gone. No land animal today comes close to Argentinosaurus, and none is likely to again, because the world that grew these giants, the oxygen, the warmth, the plant growth, the empty time, is not the world outside your window. The blue whale is the last animal on this planet still operating at prehistoric scale, and the blue whale is doing it in the one place where the rules were never as strict. Which of these animals did you think was the biggest? Deinotherium, Argentinosaurus, or the blue whale? Almost everyone says a dinosaur. Tell me in the comments which animal you guessed before the blue whale showed up.